Good morning. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of the NBA Betting Show. With me, as always, is Matt Meiselman. Mike Lockey is almost back in place. He'll be joining us tomorrow, but it's just the two of us for today, Matt. So we've got just a few moving pieces today that we'll get to in a bit. Let's do a quick recap from yesterday in terms of stuff that relates to today or otherwise important. Where do you want to start?
Okay, we'll start with the one thing that I got pretty wrong and it ended up being more complicated than I thought. And then we're going to go into the one thing that went well because it segues to today because the teams in that game are playing each other again.
Okay.
So the first thing we have to talk about is the Toronto LA game where Paul George wound up playing and John Wall didn't. Um, yeah, we've had a lot of games this year where we've gotten everything right and the teams just didn't do their job. But this was one of the first ones, or one of the few at least, where it just, like, the analysis was bad. Like, I didn't have the numbers mapped out properly when I gave the information the day in advance. And then I was wrong about the team's resting situation. I mean, to be fair, Paul George playing, I think, was a surprise to just about everybody, given a 38-minute game in overtime in Detroit, followed by a flight to Toronto. But still, the thing that I think I got the most wrong was how the line moved with him in. Because
Okay.
what we had talked about was betting like a Raptors minus 4.5 or 5 and being able to cash out or hedge at tip off. And at tip off, the line was like 3.5 or even 3. It had
Hmm.
moved too much towards the Clippers to give people really any out.
Got it.
So you can always cash out for a loss, but it would have been a substantial one with the line moving that much, or hedge at like an alternate line, but that would be the same outcome. Like you would probably lose a third of a unit before the game even started if you did that.
Yeah, I had a half unit on this one based on what we talked about on the show and couldn't find really anything to do to move off of it. So I just let it ride. Hope that the teams wouldn't do their job. Unfortunately, they did. So or whatever it was, didn't the result wasn't great, but that's okay. We can have one of those.
Yeah, and I think I
Let's
even recommended that people bet more than that because I was sure enough that George wouldn't play. And we've sort of segmented our analysis towards the people like me and the people like everybody else in terms of like time they can spend on the computer
right.
all day. And I thought it made sense even for the person who wasn't available to watch betting lines and betting updates throughout yesterday. I thought even for that person, it made sense to just take the Raptors because we're pretty confident that George is going to be out.
Yeah, like I said, I'm one of those people. I only did a half unit, but I did a half unit thinking maybe I could hedge later, but wasn't sure even if I'd be available. So that one goes in the loss column. So be it. Let's
Yeah.
talk Denver, Sacramento, because they have one of these, the new scheduling quirk where there's back to backs of same team and same city. So what are we looking at from yesterday's game? We talked about this a little bit off air about Sabonis. So news we got was fractured thumb, but he's not necessarily out, but he might have surgery, but he's on the questionable list, but we think he's going to play, but he's not going to play. He ended up not playing last night. What did
Mm-hmm.
that do for value? Did you get a bet on this game last night?
Yeah, I bet it when so this one, if you're following the Twitter account, that's where you would have pairing the YouTube show with the Twitter account.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna know enough, and this is part of why I don't want to give like just direct picks too often. I mean, sometimes it's very clear, and we don't have to like walk around the ideas that we're talking about. Sometimes it's very clear what we're recommending, but if you watched this show yesterday and you also saw my tweets throughout the day, you knew that a bet was going to be good for Denver if Sabonis was out. And then
Mm-hmm.
Sabonis wasn't at shoot around, and I tweeted I'd be really surprised if he plays. I can be more explicit, I guess, but that was when I bet on them. Like I didn't wait for a confirmation at that point. He wasn't at
And
shoot
what was
around.
the line? And when you got the shoot around news, what was the line at that point?
Denver was -3, and the projected line was 2, but we had Sabonis worth 4.5 points, so that would have moved it to 6.5. So
Got
for
it.
me, it was a little bit more than a 1 unit bet. Then we ended up getting Aaron Gordon downgraded, which actually made it a bit worse, but it was still good. Like it would have been 2.5 point edge instead of 3.5.
Okay.
So yeah, Gordon affected it, but not enough to make it a bad bet. And then at tip-off, the line was back down to 3 because I guess the market had really priced in that Aaron Gordon update. Maybe he's become like a very overvalued player because of his one really good dunk, or because Michael Malone says that he thinks that Gordon should be in the All-Star game. Maybe it's those two things. I mean, he's his own player. Like that shouldn't really mean anything to people. You know, the coach thinks his own guy is good. Okay. But the line did seem to care about Aaron Gordon quite a bit. So even if you bet this one at tip off, you were looking okay. And
what do we have as Gordon's net rating?
Gordon is a 0.6, but he's worth like a point or so because the bench is not very good.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The bench has a couple of competent guys, but one of them, who we're going to talk about for tonight's game, got injured early in last night's game, and we saw a lot of unusual rotations from Denver. So we can talk about that for tonight because that game is a total mess. That's probably, I don't even know if it's the one we should start with though, because there's so much going on in Atlanta with Trae Young and Clint Capella. But we have those two games as like the games with, I think, maximum chaos. So yeah, just to flag those.
Since we're talking about Denver, let's shift to today's Denver Sacramento game. What are we looking at? Again, Sabonis somehow with a fractured thumb is not yet going to have surgery, so he's going to just stay as a maybe. What are we thinking here? So we're showing value on Sacramento. Is that expected? No Bruce Brown and no Gordon? Is that?
No, that's Sabonis expected. Yeah, this is
Sabonis in. Okay.
Yeah, this one, like, in the past, we would have just spent 25 minutes on if-thens for this game, and I don't really think we should do that because there's too much that's unknown that I don't think you can conceivably make a bet right now.
Got it.
Like, there's just, because what we're looking at here with the game projected as like a coin flip or Sacramento favored by a little, assumes Sabonis is in, which we don't know. It assumes Gordon's in, which we don't know. It assumes Bruce Brown is in also, which we don't know. It assumes Michael Porter Jr. is in, which seems likely because they didn't have to travel, but definitely not a sure thing. And then it also assumes Jamal Murray's out, which we don't really know either.
Okay, yeah, so a lot can move here.
Yeah.
We're going to just throw this one immediately into the check the Twitter account later. That's Preaching Sense Twitter. Yes, and Matt, as you're providing updates, perhaps if you could say not just X is not a shoot around or this guy's in, but just maybe throw in an extra line of either you still no bet or now that this has happened, bet this if you got it.
Right. So, I'm just checking exactly what I said to see if I can see
if
I yeah. Hold on. This will. Yeah, I just said it would be pretty surprising if Sabonis plays. I think it should be like, personally, I was betting it then, so just to tell people that. I mean, anyone can always reply to the tweets and be like, so are you betting now? That's fine. I can always just say yes, but maybe just to cut out the middleman, I can just say, this is what I'm doing.
That's fine. Maybe that will be my job to just make sure. I'll make sure I read tweets, and if I'm not clear, I'm going to guess that the audience isn't clear either.
Okay, so fair enough.
That's what we'll do. The main reason I'm mentioning this one isn't even for the tell us when it's definite. Since there's so many moving pieces, just like if Bruce Brown's out, like if we get confirmation that Bruce Brown's out or in, it's all right. Got confirmation of this, still no bet.
Yeah.
Or if there is a bet. So all good. So a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah. The main player here is Domantas Sabonis. And if he doesn't play, it's going to be really hard to have a bet on the Sacramento side. But if he does play, I'll make one concrete statement now. If we get Sabonis in, Sacramento's a bet. That's the only one I know for sure. If he's out, though, then we have 4 players on Denver where we don't know what their status is going to be.
Right.
So if he's out, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. But if he's in, we're going to like Sacramento in some capacity.
And just to make sure, so for the Denver game, because we're just seeing Gordon and Bowen. The other 2 are Murray and Porter.
Bruce Brown, Bruce Bowen. I knew I was going to get you with that one.
So Bruce Brown, not the jersey in the background, but so Bruce Brown and Aaron Gordon are showing.
Yeah.
The other 2 that we're not seeing, you're considering Murray and Porter as the other 2 maybes?
Yeah, and Murray is already projected out, and Porter is projected in.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think anybody has Porter as questionable, but given his track record, and he could wake up with a
Yeah.
stiff back, they keep him out. So
Right.
I think he's just one of those perpetual maybes.
Yeah, but Murray is listed TBD from underdog, and Stochastic has him projected for 0 minutes. So
Yeah.
that's why I have
Okay.
Murray. Yeah, Murray's projected out.
All right, so we have that game in the keep an eye on the Twitter account. Let's jump straight to our favorite betting situation always, and that's Trae Young questionability. So
Yes.
what are we looking for there? What are we betting in the different scenarios of Trae in versus out?
So the scenario where we don't have a bet, because there are many scenarios where we do. So I'll start with the one where we don't have a bet. I think the one where we don't have a bet is if Trae Young and Clint Capella both don't play.
Okay.
Because the total that opened was at 238.5. It's down to 235. So it's already pricing in some potential for Trae not to be there.
Got it.
Trae is worth like 10 or 12 points to the total, I think. But to the game total. But Capella is worth like -4 to the game total. Like him being out would raise the game total. And if you get Trae out and Capella out, the total will come down a bit more, but not so much more that I'd be super excited to bet it because it's already dropped to begin with. So
but a Trae in, Capella out, we want to hammer the over.
Yeah, but I just want, like, if we get both guys ruled out, though, which I actually think is most likely, which is why I'm starting that. You're right, but I'm starting with the one that I think is the most likely scenario, even though it's the one where we don't really have anything. Because Capella didn't practice Sunday, or maybe it was Monday. Yeah, didn't practice Monday, didn't play yesterday. Trae Young got injured at the end of last night's game. This isn't a rest prediction. This is he got hit by like his ankle or his calf, and he had said after the game he hopes to play. They are at home on the second night of a back-to-back, but they flew in from Indiana. So they still have to travel. Yeah. So it's a home game, but they're traveling, which is the more unusual kind of back-to-back. So Trae actually is hurt. Capella actually is hurt. It's an important game for the Hawks, but like they're not going to play injured players, in December. It's too early in the year to get desperate. So I think both guys are probably going to be out, and that's going to move our projected line up to about 7, and the current line is 6.5. So no spread bet. And then the total, I think, probably ends up at like 231. So an under 235, I think, would be like mildly good.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not, if both guys are out, we don't have much. Okay. Now we can get into the fun part if we get them staggered in some way. Okay.
Sure.
So this is only going to be, there's only 4 if-thens. We don't have 14 because it's just 2 players, which is always nice.
Whatever.
Yeah, we can call it 14, but it's just 4. And we just laid out one of them already. So 3 left. If we get the thing you alluded to, if Trae plays and Capella doesn't, I think the over looks really good. Yeah. Because Atlanta has to go small. And I think Brooklyn is also inclined to go small in the non-Nick Claxton minutes. They kind of do that anyway. Like they'll play Simmons at center when Claxton's not in the game, or they can play like Royce O'Neal, TJ Warren with Durant and just have that be the front court. And they can certainly do that if Atlanta's playing like John Collins at the 5.
Okay.
So Okongwu would probably start if Capella's out, but when Okongwu's not in the game, we're going to see Collins play a lot of center. Maybe a bit of Frank Kaminsky, but it's going to be a lot of Collins at center, especially like Collins versus Ben Simmons. There wouldn't be a huge matchup advantage either way. I think both teams would be okay with that one. So, and even Collins versus Claxton. Claxton's not much of a scorer. He's a defender and rebounder. So I think we do see a lot of small ball from the Hawks if Capella doesn't play, which would help the game total. And then Trae Young being in would also help the game total because it's already come down in anticipation of him maybe not playing. Like the game total could be 242 if this scenario happens, the one where Trae plays and Capella doesn't. So I think the total could actually go up 6 or 7 points from here.
Makes sense. Yeah, especially, I mean, Collins had probably his best game of the season. So, he had 26 and 10. If Capella's out, I could definitely see them going small and just giving him more minutes, which hopefully, in that case, if we're betting the over, will help that situation.
And in that scenario, too, we have the spread projection at like 4.5 because it's showing 2.3 right here, but Capella's worth like 2 points. So we would have Nets projected by 4.5, which at plus 6.5 is like on the fringe of value, but the over is better, I think.
Right.
Though
Okay.
the other thing to add there is if the over is kind of good and the Hawks are kind of good, the Atlanta team total over would also be pretty good. So if we get Trey in, maybe the first thing to bet is Atlanta team total over.
Okay.
Because then you don't have to care so much about Capella. Capella is he's sort of neutral on Atlanta's side and is singularly good at limiting the other team from scoring.
Right.
So like if we got an update, maybe this will turn into 14 scenarios. We haven't. There's more to lay out.
I was going to say, right, we're doing the Trey news first.
Right.
I'm sure we'll have Capella news first. But so if you get Trey news first, so if Trey's in.
If Trey is in and we don't know about Capella yet, just Atlanta team total over is the safest thing to bet. Yeah.
Yep.
And if we got, I can go to the other one now, right? Or on this scenario, you have any other things to add?
No, that's good. We did Trey in first. So
okay.
If Trey's in, then we want team total. If you don't know yet about Capella.
Right.
So let's say we don't get Trey news first.
Okay. And then we can do Capella news first, right? Where Trey remains uncertain or whatever.
Okay.
That one, you go Brooklyn team total under.
Okay.
Actually, let me think about that for a second. No, we would need Trey out for that, so never mind. If we get Capella in, we kind of just have to wait for Trey. Trey Young is the much bigger piece, so we don't really have to worry about that one too much. Although I will say, like, if we get Capella in without a Trey Young update, it definitely makes it more likely that Trey will sit tonight. But I don't think we can do anything with that. He could be a game time decision, and we just have to wait for him.
Gotcha.
So,
all right. So if you get Capella news first, there's really no bet.
Yeah, we got to wait for Trey Young. He's way more important.
All right. And if Capella in and Trey out, then that's what do we do?
That's the under for sure. That's the one where we're going to see the game total drop by 10 points, even though it's already dropped by 3. Yeah, if we got an update that said Trey is out but Capella is in, I'm going like 3 units on the under. On the game total under.
At what total?
235.
All right. And how about the Brooklyn team under if it's Capella in, Trey out?
No, I don't really like that one because we still would be showing an edge on the Atlanta side. So 2 things are going to happen if we get Capella in, Trey out. First, we're going to have the game total under, which is going to drop a lot. And then the spread is going to move more towards Brooklyn. And then we're going to have a Hawks bet after it moves too far. This happens most of the time that Trey Young doesn't play is we end up with a Hawks bet after the line overcorrects for it. And it's specifically on back-to-backs when the version of Trey that we would have been getting would have been a fatigued version of him anyway. Like he's only worth 2.5 points to the spread in this context. His impact is massive on the total, but on the spread it's not huge. Because they have DeJounte Murray's back, Bogdanovich is back, John Collins is back. Like they have the guys that can play. They don't need Trey Young to win. And we saw them beat Denver in this scenario. We saw a few of these last year. They can beat Brooklyn without Trey Young. They're going to have a very hard time doing it if they don't have Capella playing, but they can beat Brooklyn without Trey Young. So
careful. KD's gonna tweet something nasty at you now, or he's gonna use this as Blackboard tool. Meiselman says Hawks can beat Nets without Trey Young. Here we go. You know, KD needs always
come at me, Durant.
All right. Anything else on Brooklyn, Atlanta? Or
there's. I think we have one more scenario left, and that's the one where both guys are playing.
Okay.
Yeah, both guys are playing. They just have Hawks. There's no total bet.
Okay.
Like we're showing 4.2 points of value on the sheet.
Okay, so if Capella and Trey in, then we want the Hawks at what's that?
Plus 6.5. Plus 6 would be fine. Even 5.5 would be fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Those are north of 1 unit bets if the Hawks are fully healthy. Again, I think this is the least likely scenario.
Mm-hmm.
When a guy says he's hopeful to play the night before, I feel like that's closer to doubtful.
Okay.
Like he didn't say he thinks he'll play. He said he wants to play.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. So that way when they roll out, he can say, well, I wanted to play.
Yeah. It gives him plausible deniability, especially in the Trey Young thing that's been going on this year. It's like, hey, listen, I gave it my shot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you. And I want to jump back to one thing to clarify. So
Okay.
in the Capella in Trey out that you say the line will overcorrect,
Yeah.
what's the overcorrection points? What's the strike point that you would want to bet there? If Capella in and Trey out, what line are you looking for to bet Hawks?
So here, I'm just going to scroll here so we can show what these two players are worth. We have an estimate of 2.5 for Trey and 2 for Capella.
Okay.
If Trey is out, then we're going to move the projected spread is going to be like 5, 4.8, whatever, around 5. And I think the real line will go to like +8. So
Got it.
you would want you want 7.5 or higher. I mean,
Got it.
would it be crazy to see like a 9 show up? I don't know. Like, I don't know what it's going to move to, but I think it will move to at least 7.5 and we'll have something.
Okay.
Right now it's 6.5. Like, it's probably going to move more than a point for Trey. I
just wanted
yeah.
to clarify. So for those that are watching, it's one thing, like when you say you're waiting for the overcorrection, you know what that amount is. I want to know the strike points. So
Right.
I know what to bet, and for the audience as well, they know what to look for.
Yeah, and
So it
also
sounds
like the timing for this too. I'm glad you went back to this because I don't think people have any idea what sort of timing is optimal for these situations. Usually, like, so let's say right now we got that news. Trey is out and Capella's in. Let's say we just happen to find out both right now. And you know what? I'm going to log in just in case because yeah, anything can happen at any time. Got to make sure you're logged in at least somewhere. But let's say we got that right now. The game's going to be available to bet for like 10 more seconds. It's going to go off the board. And then books are going to start reopening it like a minute or 2 or 3 later. And I think normally what happens is you see the biggest number you're going to see is in that window.
When they first reopen?
When they first reopen, and then it's going to come back down. Specifically for situations where like the sharper side of the game or the one where we show an edge, because generally that correlates to what other sharp bettors are doing. Specifically in these kinds of cases, I think you would see a line like it could reopen at 9 and then close at 7.5.
Got it.
Like they're gonna over account for it because Trey Young is such an alarming update, but Capella is nearly as important in terms of the Hawks' chances to win. The reason I say Trey is more impactful is because of the game total, because his impact is so huge there. But for the team to win, Capella is maybe similarly important. So Young is a much bigger name. I think the line will overcorrect, and it's going to happen like right when they reopen. So if you see that Trey Young ruled out update, look for like 2 minutes later where you could get like a Hawks +9.
All right, so it sounds like in that situation, so if Capella in, Trey out, the bet you want to make right away, if possible, is the under 235.
Yeah. And then the bet you want to make after is on Atlanta.
Right.
And then for the scenario where both guys get ruled out, we may have an Atlanta bet also. Because it could overcorrect even more. But I feel less good about that one because I don't think Capella is going to be viewed by the odds makers as substantial. But it could,
my head's ready to explode. So
okay.
I think we got the first few scenarios set that are the most likely ones.
I assume that people will re-listen to this part at least 15 times. Is that a wrong assumption?
Sure there'll be hundreds of people listening 15
but
times.
That was pretty good for us. I think we usually take a lot longer to break it down.
All right, so let's move on. What game you want to go to next? We want to talk about the enthralling Magic Pistons game?
Yeah, I'm just seeing if there's anything else where we have no, let's go to Miami first. That one's simple. I mean, we're showing a bit of value on Detroit. We can come back to that, but we have the other game with massive amounts of uncertainty is Miami versus LA. Okay. So I'll scroll over here.
Hold on. First thing I want to point out here. Are we showing LeBron James now at a positive 3.3 player rating?
Yeah, he's been playing pretty well.
Okay. All right. So the LeBron jokes have to stop.
Well, I mentioned that he passed Alec Burks a couple weeks ago, but I know. He's gotten it's gone even higher since then. Yeah.
So sorry to all the LeBron haters that were enjoying hearing us dump on LeBron, but yeah, he's still LeBron James, and he's a positive 3.3.
Okay, hold on. We just got Devin Booker ruled out.
Okay.
He was already expected to be out, but stand by for potential Chris Paul rest. Stand by for. We don't have a bet here unless Chris Paul rests also.
Got it.
I'm just gonna give it a second. This was mostly expected for Booker to be out. Like he could be out a while. Yeah, sorry to cut off the LeBron
No,
commentary,
no, that's okay.
but Booker is out. I think that's all we're gonna get right now. All right,
Gotcha.
we'll come back to this game. I'm just gonna give it like another 10 seconds to make sure we don't get another player update, but we could get more Phoenix guys.
Got it. Okay.
Doesn't seem like that's gonna happen right now. All right, we're gonna come back to this game.
All right, let's jump back to that Miami LA game. So LeBron's questionable. What are we looking for here? If Butler and Bam are in, then it's a bet on Miami. Is that what we're saying?
And if Butler and Bam play and LeBron doesn't, it's a huge bet on Miami because we're going to be showing the projected line at like 13, and it's 8 right now.
All right, and what's the likely timing for these announcements? I know Underdog is kind of fed up with Miami because it's tough.
Yeah, Underdog may boycott Miami. They may just not tell us. I think the LeBron news is going to be relatively early. His specific comment was he'll know when he wakes up if he's going to play. Like general soreness, he'll see how he sleeps. They had to go from Orlando last night to Miami tonight. That's why he's questionable, because it's a back-to-back. And it's both games on the road.
But you say that going from Orlando to Miami, I mean...
Not a long trip.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine they're getting on an airplane, right? Like, it's a couple-hour drive.
Yeah, I guess I think not being able to sleep in your house is relevant. Maybe it's just that. He's got to figure out how good the hotel bed is and then wake up today and see how he feels.
I'm just assuming LeBron has like if they have a team, I don't know, do they have a chartered bus? Like, I don't know. I'm curious how they get from Orlando to Miami. Maybe they do hop on the plane for a 30-minute flight, as opposed to a 3.5 or 4 hour drive.
We don't have to figure this out again. We already did Milwaukee and Indiana. That's okay. It's okay if we don't know. Because LeBron will tell us at some point. The Lakers will tell us.
When LeBron wakes up, he'll let us know if he's playing. So if LeBron out, Butler and Bam in, then how many units are you going here?
2. And I think we also could get more than just LeBron out. Like, Beverly does matter a bit.
Okay.
He's played better lately. I think he's been making a lot more threes, but he has a decent player rating. I don't know if Austin Reeves is in like rest territory, but he was hurt last week, so it might not just be LeBron. But you can't bet this now necessarily, even though we're showing 2.5 points of value on Miami, because there's just too much potential downside. Like, if LeBron were to play and Bam and Butler didn't, we'd have a Lakers bet.
Yeah, and again, for those maybe new to the sheet that you're looking at here, that value showing for Miami, that assumes Butler and Bam are in, and it's too early in the day to know that for certain.
But I do think the most likely scenario is that Butler and Bam play and that LeBron doesn't. I think this is likely to break Miami's direction.
Gotcha.
It's just I don't feel strongly enough to say just blindly bet it now. I think so. Really, I guess what I'm recommending is if you get LeBron downgraded, bet Miami, and if you get Butler and Bam upgraded, bet Miami. We only need one side to break right to have the 2.5 point edge.
Got it.
Right, like if all 3 guys play, the Miami bet is okay, and if none of them play. None of them playing would be a problem, but if only one Heat player plays and then LeBron doesn't, Miami still looks good. So, if Butler and LeBron are out, but Bam is in, something like that, then Miami at -8 is still fine.
Got it. And if the LeBron news is first, if he's in, then it's just probably a no bet.
Yeah, if we get LeBron in, I'm just going to wait.
Yeah.
Because I don't think if we get LeBron in, the line will probably come down to like 6.5. And if Bam and Butler were to then get ruled out, then I think you could just take Lakers plus 6.5. Like, it's not worth it to try to steal +8 because I also think Butler and Bam are probably going to play. So the two of them were both limited participants at practice yesterday. It sounds like they're going to return, but I don't know for sure. Miami doesn't. I don't think they play tomorrow. I'm just checking because sometimes that can be a factor. Their next game is Friday in Denver.
Okay. Yeah, that's even more reason. I'm checking the standings.
Well, they're playing a back-to-back Friday in Denver in Utah for the 30th and the 31st.
That's for Friday, Saturday? Okay.
Yeah. They could easily sit guys one of those. Like, Butler could play. Butler will probably sit. I think Butler probably sits the Denver game and plays the Utah game. They can play him tonight, sit him Friday, and play him Saturday. Because to sit him tonight to then have him play a back-to-back seems impossible. He's not playing back-to-backs right now. They're holding Butler out of one leg of back-to-backs basically all the time anyway. So he can play tonight and have another 3 days off or something.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think that's probably what will happen.
Got it. Probably too early in the season to be looking at the standings, but looking at the standings, right now they are exactly tied with the Hawks. Same exact record at 17-17. So, getting a leg up in division is never a bad thing. But it's more the timing of when those next games are.
Yeah.
So Butler most likely in. What's been is there a similar MO for when they play or don't play Bam?
No, and I thought Bam would play the other night, but he was dealing with an illness, so that just makes it hard to know. He's not.
Okay.
I think he. Actually, I have that wrong. He was out with an illness, but he's listed today with a shoulder injury. So I don't really know what's going on. The normal track record for Bam, I think, is out the window right now because he's dealing with like multiple things, and it's just really hard to tell.
Sick and then a shoulder injury. That sounds like me. Like I get sick, I sneezed, I hurt my shoulder when I sneezed, and now I'm out of commission. So all good.
Bam is just a classic, regular person, not even an athlete at all. Just a guy who plays pickup basketball once in a while.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the Miami game. What do you want to talk about next?
So just one more thing on Miami.
Sure.
If we get Butler and Bam at shoot around today, I'm going to assume they're playing.
That's good enough? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Like full participant. If we could get some weird update where they were like just shooting free throws at the end, and then I'll be less. But if we get like Underdog tweeting Butler and Bam participated in shoot around, I'm just going to go with that.
Is the Underdog one to check, or should we be having push notifications for Ira Winderman on today?
Very, very good question. I am going to get Ira Winderman and Anthony Chang.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, those are the guys. The beat writers are more relevant if we're looking for shoot around.
Right. That's more what I'm talking about. I mean, I know Underdog is kind of the end all be all for the injury news, but
right.
If you get a rando clip of somebody shooting a baseline jumper,
right?
One of the guys was showing slow motion videos of somebody the other night. But yeah, probably a better source for getting shoot around news. So if we're saying Butler and Bam being a shoot around is enough to think that they're going to be in, then I'm sorry, Ira Winderman and
Anthony Chang. Yeah, should I put them both on the screen here? Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, or just. Yeah,
those are easy enough names to figure out.
Good.
I think they'll be fine.
All right.
Yeah. I'm just checking the YouTube comments because we've got some of these. Yeah, people are talking about the Sabonis potential for playing. I think it's just hard to know. Like we don't know what they're gonna do with him.
Yeah, it's really a tough one because they said the first news I heard was fractured thumb.
Yeah.
And then it was deciding on surgery or not. So what I was thinking was either he's going to get surgery and he's out, or if he decides he can play through it, then he's going to be in. So I was surprised to see him show up on the list as questionable. I felt like there was going to be a decision made. Now, your comment was accurate. Maybe it's just they're seeing how much swelling there is till they decide, but that's a tough one.
Yeah.
He just has so much impact on that team for both himself and, as we talked about on the show, he unleashes a better version of Fox. He just has a very positive impact on the team. So we'll certainly be watching that one closely. What's the is it the Sacramento PR account? What's the account that we watch for there? If there's anything
I don't have a specific one. Yeah, there's a bunch. They have like a bunch of people, and I'm not sure. I mean, I'll post it if I see something from shoot around, like I did yesterday. I guess if anyone wants to go back, you can look at the tweet I did yesterday where I quote tweeted one of the beat writers. I forget who it was, but yeah, I don't have like a specific. I don't know if there's a Kings PR account. I haven't seen one of those.
Got it.
But this would be more like a shoot around update. If he doesn't participate in shoot around again, I think we assume he's out again.
Got it.
Like he's gonna have to like try it out. If he's not even going to shoot around, he's not going to play.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah, like I said, it's a weird one where fractured thumb, out last night, but not out for today, just
Yeah.
questionable for today.
I mean,
So,
I have a torn ligament in my wrist, and I played through that. Just sometimes the injury is in a spot where you can deal with it. I'm not a professional basketball player, but
well,
the
come
torn
on,
ligament
Sabonis.
only affects my golf game. It doesn't affect my basketball game. I don't know why.
Come on, Demontis, tough it up.
Yeah, maybe
All
it's
right,
because I'm a righty and I don't dribble left-handed. Maybe it's just that.
I'm sure that's what it is.
It's
Okay,
just that.
all right. So we've covered the Meiselman pickup games. We've covered the Goldenberg sneezing and hurting his shoulder.
Yep.
What important medical news are we going to next?
There actually is not that much more that we care about. We have a lot of names on here, but we did just get that Booker update. So let me remove him because we don't have to say he's projected out because he is formally out. We have Beal projected out. So
I'm gonna ask you to jump to one here.
okay.
We're showing 2.6 points of value for the Pistons. With
It's not going to be anymore. I was going to recommend that because that was on the fringe, we wait to see if we get a +2. Now the 1.5s are gone.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so it's the Pistons are +1 everywhere, and we have them projected -1. That I don't think is enough. Like we've talked about this, the points right around 0 are not as valuable because games don't tend to end on those numbers. So even at +1.5, I would have said half unit bet, but I really wanted to wait for +2, and I don't. It may go back to 1.5. I don't think we're getting +2, so I'm not doing anything with that game right now.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
If you can get a 1.5 at -110, I think that's okay, but it doesn't appear as though there are any of those right now.
I wasn't necessarily looking for a compelling reason to have to watch Detroit or Orlando.
Yeah,
so
there's a lot of good games tonight. We can avoid that one.
Gotcha. All right, what do we want to talk about next? Where is there potential value? Let's see. We talked about Miami.
Yeah.
So Phoenix, Washington. Is there anything here? We're just waiting for Chris Paul news.
This one is very frustrating because we were talking about a Grizzlies bet for yesterday versus the Suns. They were like -7, -7.5, and they lost by 20, I think.
Yep.
And because of that, we're not really looking at a Paul rest game because even on a road game in Memphis and in a win, Paul played 24 minutes last night.
Got it.
He was able to sit out the entire fourth quarter because they were up by so much. I didn't really think that was, much of a possibility. So could Chris Paul rest? Yeah, it's definitely possible. I'm thinking would we have gotten that now with the Booker update? Not necessarily, because Cameron Payne, he's due for an update of some kind. He hasn't played in a while, and we didn't get him ruled out. So I think what just happened is there was a formal statement just specifically about Booker. We did not get a Suns injury report. We just know about Devin Booker not being available. And he may be out a little bit longer. He re-aggravated a groin injury that he was previously dealing with. He could be out a little bit. So we could get into this maybe tomorrow for future betting because, we've been on here for a while already today and there's a lot happening today. But Booker was ruled out. We don't have an update on Cameron Payne, which I think means we could still get an update on other Suns players. So if Paul were to rest, we're going to have a Washington bet. And then if Beal were to play, that's going to add points back in. Beal hurt his hamstring in the fourth quarter last night. He's already projected out. I would be pretty surprised if he plays on a back-to-back. Yeah. But it's possible. So a Beal upgrade and or a Paul downgrade gives us a Washington bet.
Got it. Okay. All right. Minnesota, New Orleans, looks like no bets there. Milwaukee, Chicago. A bet if Caruso's out or not enough?
I don't think. Can we get -4? Let me see. If you can get 4 and he's ruled out, maybe 4.5 is a half unit bet. Yeah, I think it would be a bit of value. My guess is he plays though. He was out and was upgraded to questionable yesterday. I think he's going to be in, and I think that's why the line has come down. It opened 5.5, now it's 4.5. So if he were to not play, sure, Milwaukee's going to look all right, but I think he's playing. So
all right, we covered Denver, Sacramento, and then the only other game.
There is one more game to scroll down to.
Utah Warriors game.
How weird is it to see the Jazz favored by 4 points in Golden State? Just the things that have had to happen this season to create that.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And
And
you
we
know,
we don't even think the Warriors are a good bet. Like it's the right line.
well, you got Kelly Olynyk questionable, so nobody can bet until you get the Kelly Olynyk
Right.
news.
Yeah. No, I understand. I mean, if
All right.
if Draymond were to not play tonight, this is a back to back for the Warriors, so we can stay on this for like a second.
Mhm.
Clay, they said after the game, is probably not playing because back to backs for Clay, he's just not doing them, even with both games at home. But Draymond's been dealing with some issues, like I think it's his knee or maybe I forget. But if Draymond were to not play, which is I think a long shot, but if that happened, Utah would be a good bet.
Got
Otherwise, we
it.
don't really have anything here. This is a game I care about a lot for future betting purposes, but otherwise, yeah, there's not much here.
Got it.
We have
Okay.
enough. We have enough craziness, right? Like we have the Denver game, we have the Atlanta game, we have the Miami game. Those three alone, like if those were the only three games on the slate today, we would still have a busier day than normal.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a lot of potentials there. So, guys, keep an eye on the Preaching Sense Twitter account. Matt will try to keep us updated. You can set your push notifications on for Schulman, Winderman, and Chang. Those are the most relevant specific guys.
What was
today.
the first one? That's the Hawks guy, Kevin
Schulman?
Kevin
Yeah.
Chouinard.
Oh, Chouinard. Why do
Yeah.
I keep thinking Schulman? All
I
right,
don't know.
thank you for correcting me there.
That might
So
be some
Kevin
other basketball
Chouinard,
person.
yeah, Chouinard, Winderman, and Chang are the three relevant writers. If we find who the right Sacramento guy is, that could be relevant to find out, especially if there's just any early news with Sabonis, because there's so much impact there. We'll try to give you all those potential if-thens on the Atlanta game.
Yeah.
as
What I'm
we
going to
get
do with
news.
Sabonis, by the way, is once I see a tweet from anyone that is at shoot around in any capacity before we get a Sabonis update, I'm just going to flag like this is the guy who's there today, and we'll follow him.
Perfect. Okay. Sounds good. And we'll have the gang all back together as Mr. Lockheed's back at home tomorrow, I believe, in his home studio. So, anything else today, Matt, or are we wrapping up?
Yeah, there's some back-to-backs into tomorrow, but we'll cover it tomorrow. That was enough.
Sounds good. All right, 10:15-ish tomorrow is our official start time. Look forward to chatting.